the corridor of the huge palace decorated with spring flowers, a wonderful place for a meeting of a couple in love. A guy is going to kiss his lady's hand. His beloved, a sweet dark-haired girl with a round face, pointed chin and large purple eyes, blushes at this gesture of attention. The suitor of this beauty, a young man with green hair dressed in an expensive suit, raises her white-gloved hand to his lips. He cannot imagine the world without this girl. But she says that she is a little nervous because of the constant approach of the start of the appointment ceremony. The young man shines with green eyes and in a soothing tone tells his passion that she has nothing to fear. He will be there. The girl smiles. Yeah. After a few minutes, the happy couple heads to the end of the corridor holding hands. Being together in grief and joy is true happiness. And so that this miracle could happen, it does not hurt to use magic. A boy and a girl approach a massive door made of light wood. Dark-haired opens them and uncertainly walks into the huge hall. A woman in a dark cloak sits on the throne. The girl bows to her. Dark-haired is recommended to the Holy Virgin. That is the name of this mysterious woman. The girl calls herself the one who changed the fate of magical creatures. It may seem that she has a rather high opinion of herself, but this is not so. I'm the only one of my kind, says the dark-haired one. She carefully tells the woman of her intentions. I want to heal everyone I can reach using my power. The dark-haired one smiles sweetly. An ordinary apartment. A girl scrolls through YouTube, one of the most popular social networks in the world. She sees a bunch of videos with cute and funny animals that get millions of likes and comments. After a few minutes, a girl with dark hair, dressed in jeans and a simple gray sweater, puts down the phone and approaches the cage with a white, fluffy dog. The dark-haired one calls him Mafu. She takes the dog in her arms. I'm home! The animal squints with pleasure. She missed her owner. The dark-haired one smiles at his favorite. She holds him close. The girl is sure that pets help people. If you love your pets, they will give you unlimited love. By the way, the girl's name is Futaba Ichiru. She is a new employee of one of the numerous companies in the country. Dark-haired lives in a small apartment with his pet, a white Spitz Mafu. Like most pet owners, the girl considers her pet the cutest and best among all others. She hugs the dog to her and exhales loudly. How long have I been working at this job? The girl considers her manager to be a strict and even scary woman. The dark-haired one says Mafu, who works for money so they can live together. The girl has been living with a dog since she was a student. The dark-haired one sits Mafa on the sofa. Charge of fluffiness, how warm and soft you are. The dog, as if to confirm the owner's words, licks her face. The girl smiles and tells Maf that he is just a miracle. A positive and very sweet miracle. Day. Big white fluffy clouds are floating in the sky, fluffy like Mafu. But the girl has no time to think about it now. She sits in the office and listens to instructions from her manager. But it says something about the norm of tasks for the day. The dark-haired one silently nods. She does not see the point in answering anything to this strict woman. The manager doesn't like it. Answer normally. The girl says that she understood everything. The manager inspects the office and tells the dark-haired woman that it's time for her to get rid of her role as a student. Now the girl needs to gain experience as a full-fledged member of society. See? The manager points with her hand at the women who are typing with incredible speed on the keyboard. How do your colleagues manage everything? But he nods without much enthusiasm. The manager, having already received her daily dose of human positive energy, goes to her office. The girl sits down on her office chair and starts typing something. But her thoughts are not focused on that at all. The morning of the next day, the dark-haired woman opens her eyes and moans, "Ah, off! God, what a long-awaited weekend! I feel like a squeezed lemon." Dark-haired sits on the bed. She did it too abruptly, her head couldn't stand it. The girl begins to feel sick. She looks at her fingers. They tremble. Dark-haired realizes that she needs Mafu's healing power. A girl just needs a charge of fluffiness which only a small Spitz can give. After a few minutes, the girl changes into home clothes and approaches Mafu's enclosure. She greets the dog and offers him to go for a morning walk. But the Spitz does not respond, does not even open its eyes. This surprises the girl. Mafu usually wakes up very early and rushes to wake up his mistress. Dark-haired calls the dog's name several more times. The girl starts to worry. She mentally notes that Mafu is even sleeping strangely. This has never happened. After a few seconds, the dark-haired woman realizes that she urgently needs to take Mafa to the hospital. She takes the dog in her arms and jumps up, leaving the pet lying on the floor. The girl immediately picks up the phone and begins to Google the symptoms she noticed in Mafu. But the dark-haired man does not have time to do this. A call from the manager is displayed on the screen. Or rather, from Kurosagi-san. Although the girl does not like the manager at the moment, she still picks up the phone and greets politely. The manager asks the girl to come to work. The office lacks workers. The girl is furious. The impudent manager got her even on a legal day off. But the dark-haired man does not show his irritation. She just grips the phone tighter in her hand and says that she won't be able to come today. When the manager asks why, the dark-haired woman says that her dog is sick. The woman exclaims, "A dog? A pet?" The girl shuddered at such a sudden change in tone. The dark-haired man opens his eyes wide. She does not like that the manager talks to her like that, but she is not going to quarrel with this strict woman. The girl still did not have enough time to be released. She clears her throat and says quietly, "I'm sorry, I'll look after him better next time, but what's done is what's done." Mafu finally opens his eyes. The dark-haired woman, busy talking to the manager, of course, does not notice this. The girl continues to prove to her that she cannot come to work today. Mafu runs up to his mistress, but the girl still does not pay attention to him. Then the dog starts barking loudly. The dark-haired one lowers his head and opens his eyes wide. Mafu stands on his hind legs and leans on the dark-haired woman's lap. Futaba freezes in place. She does not know how to justify herself to the manager now. But unfortunately, she heard Mafu's barking. "It seems that your pet is healthy and cheerful. Did you want to lie to rest?" The dark-haired one sighs tiredly. It's only morning and everyone has already got her. The dark-haired man clenches his hand into a fist in anger and excitement. The girl tries to say something, but it seems that the manager does not want to listen to her. The woman starts scolding the dark-haired man loudly. She says that her behavior is negligent and irresponsible. The girl purses her lips. Now she feels like a fifth grader who didn't do her homework. The dark-haired girl makes another attempt to say something to the manager, but it's all in vain. The woman is convinced that Futaba is just an irresponsible and childish girl who wants to get money for nothing. The dark-haired one directs his gaze at his Spitz, how she wants to hug him now. Then her mood will immediately improve. But all these are just dreams. Now Futaba can only hug the phone from which the manager's angry voice is heard. Several hours pass. The girl is already sitting in the office on her chair and typing on an old loud keyboard. Her hands are shaking. Dark-haired is very worried about Mafa. Evening. Futaba leaves the office. Many houses in the area have lights on, which is not surprising at all. A day off, after all. People rest in their homes. The dark-haired woman clutches her bag in her hands and says to herself, "We need to leave immediately. It's better to find another job that I can combine with my rhythm of life." But now Futaba needs to rest and take a few days off. The girl walks quickly along the empty street. She mentally tells herself that she needs to make Mafa's vet appointment tomorrow morning. The dog looked quite cheerful as the dark-haired one walked, but it was still best to check on Mafu's health. Suddenly, it's something serious. The girl shuddered at the thought. Futaba is very afraid for his beloved dog. She quickens her pace. The girl convinces herself that everything will be fine, that she is just screwing herself up. 15 minutes later, the girl enters her apartment. She quickly washes her hands and runs to Mafu's enclosure. The dog is lying on his favorite pillow. The dark-haired one touches his pet's fur with his hand, hoping that he is all right. But the dog does not react in any way to the touches of its beloved owner. The girl notices that Mafu's body is cold. Her dog died. The dark-haired girl rests her hands on the floor. She can't believe that her little fur ball will never see her from work again. Futubu takes the dog in his arms, still naively hoping that she just thought it, and now Mafu will open his little black eyes. But this does not happen. The dark-haired man opens his eyes wide. She scolds herself for leaving the dog alone in the morning, for obeying her manager and going to that damn job. The girl starts to cry. "I'm the only one who was at Mafu. How could I leave him?" The dark-haired man hates himself now. It seems that she will never forgive herself for the death of her pet. The dark-haired girl remembers how she hugged and kissed Mafa last night in the morning. Now that won't happen, and only she herself is to blame for this. The girl presses Mafu's cold body to her. Tears fall on the white fur of a small Spitz. Fool, what a fool I am, Futuba thinks to himself. The girl looks at the door. She has to make things right at least now. The dark-haired woman jumps to her feet and runs to her bag to get her phone. She wants to look on the internet what to do in such cases, how to hide dogs properly. But Futubu does not have time to run to the bag. Everything starts to float in the girl's eyes. She is sick, very bad. The dark-haired one falls to the floor. She tries to get up, but she can't. She doesn't have enough strength. Futubu's eyes close. The same palace in which we were at the beginning of the story. A dark-haired girl looks out the window with a glassy gaze. Just a minute ago, she saw something strange. The dark-haired suspect that this strange feeling was a memory of her past life. Life in a metropolis, not in this quiet world with cute stone houses. The girl directs her gaze at the huge oak shrouded in fog, says to herself, "But I always thought that our world is one. How wrong I was." Today the girl is wearing a beautiful green dress. The dark-haired woman has a lot of thoughts in her head. They relate mainly to her past life, in particular Mafu, the dog she was unable to save. The dark-haired woman recalls her own words about the fact that cute animals heal the heart and soul. She assumes that she has entered a world populated only by humans and magical creatures. The girl has not changed much compared to her past life, and the appearance is the same and the character. Only the name is different. Ichiru. Dark-haired is a familyless orphan. The Alan Empire is a large country where all enmity is forbidden. That is why it is so quiet, peaceful, and beautiful here. There is not a single destroyed or mutilated building in this empire. And instead of seas, Alan is surrounded by clouds. Ichiru does not know his real name and surname. One of the girl's parents abandoned her on the road. Ichiru grew up in a city shelter. She only left him last month as she turned 15. Shortly before this event, the memory of life in the past world returned to Ichiru. From that day on, the girl often began to think about her actions when she was not Ichiru, but Futaba. The dark-haired woman has rethought many things. The day comes when the girl leaves the shelter. Ichiru's friend asks the girl if she can feed her with a collection of local herbs. She offers the dark-haired man to go with her to the capital. Ichiru waves his hand and says with a smile that everything will be fine. The girl is sure that she will be able to live even with a minimal income. The dark-haired one can even afford to rent a room. The reason why the dark-haired man does not want to conquer the capital is psychological trauma due to excessive diligence in his past life. Ichiru closes his eyes and smiles. The girl's friend asks what is wrong with her. Time passes. A dark-haired woman walks down one of the town's streets. Horses and people walk along the road. This world is inhabited by magical creatures, and a race with magical power can use their abilities. When the girl first heard about magical creatures, she imagined an image familiar to the world in which she lived in a past life. Something like a giant dragon. But the dark-haired woman was wrong. In the Ala Empire, humans and magical creatures live in peace. Various creatures speak the same language as humans, and, like humans, live in cities. Of course, there are creatures that cannot speak, but they are dangerous beasts. Ichiru had never met such a person before. The most common creatures in the empire are cute purple lambs with a horn on their head. The dark-haired man can see one of them now. She turns her head in the direction of the lamb. What a sweet sir. Fluffy. Magical beings in this world are like humans. And the cute animals that supported me so much in the other world are also magical creatures. Even just looking at him makes Ichiru feel lighter. The girl wants to make friends with the lamb. She flashes her eyes, wanting to attract his attention. It works. The one-horned furry is staring at the girl. But despite her desire to find a magical friend, she immediately looks away from him. "No, you cannot," says the dark-haired woman to herself. The sky turns gray and gloomy. After a few minutes, something starts to fall from it. Ichiru and other passers-by look up. The dark-haired woman is surprised. What is rapidly approaching the ground does not look much like ordinary raindrops. It is kind of shiny and loose. The girl understands that it is, most likely, sand rain. Things are bad. Magical creatures don't really like sand. Rabbits hurry to put hoods on their heads so that the unusual rain could not injure their fragile ears. Horses and goats are not so afraid of sand. They open their pretty umbrellas and continue walking through the city. These hotties are asking the rabbits to stop panicking. Animals run to their homes. The sheep that Ichiro wanted to befriend tells someone that humans are much better than magical creatures. Sand rain is very damaging to amazing creatures. Ichiro listens to the creature's cries for a few more minutes and then turns to the forest. I'll collect some herbs and go back. The dark-haired man makes his way into the thicket of the forest through the thorny bushes. The girl breathes fresh forest air. She is not at all afraid of abundant sand rain. This is just another type of rain, a characteristic phenomenon for these parts. The dark-haired one tries to catch a few purple-silver grains of sand but fails. As soon as the rain touches something, it magically disappears. Ichiro wonders when the rain will end. It usually lasts from a few moments to several minutes. However, for magical creatures, this rain, as you already know, is dangerous. The girl hears someone's plaintive whining. She directs her gaze to the tree. A small squirrel is sitting on a branch. "The poor thing," says the dark-haired one. It seems that she is in pain. She is already all black. The animal rolls to the side, but does not hold on to the branch and begins to fly down. The girl opens her eyes wide and screams in terror. After a moment, she jumps up and runs to the tree, hoping to catch the squirrel. "I have to do it at all costs," says the girl to herself. And all because the consequences of a fall can be very dangerous, even fatal, for an animal. Once upon a time in the shelter, the girl had already seen the death of a small animal from sand rain. It was a cat brother who came to play with the little one. He was putting together a wooden constructor with some boy. Suddenly, the magical creature disappeared. All that was left of him was a small beige overall. The children immediately called the teacher, a fat man with glasses. He said that the animal was injured due to sand rain. The teacher explained to the children that the lifespan of magical creatures is much shorter than that of humans. People should not be afraid of sand rain. It is safe for them. But for magical creatures, this type of rain is a real poison. It gradually accumulates in the body. Direct contact with rain is incredibly damaging to magical creatures. Even so, air mixed with sand penetrates the body. Purple sand weakens the creature's vitality and magical abilities. That is why the girl is now in such a hurry to catch the squirrel. The dark-haired woman does not want the animal not only to die, but also to be poisoned. But Ichiro does not have time. Protein dissolves in air. It seems that the animal's body was completely filled with sand. The girl freezes in place, unable to take her eyes off the black ash. The dark-haired one again remembers the day when she first saw the death of a magical being. Then the teacher and the children of the shelter prayed for the cat's soul. After that, the still small Ichiro asked the man if it was possible to cure the animal that was injured by the sand rain. Is it possible to stop the process of sand accumulation in the body? The teacher, without turning his face to the child, said that he did not know this. So far, no one has been able to stop the sand rain and the accumulation of sand in the magical creature's body. The girl emerges from her memories. Black ash falls on her palms. In this world, loving pets and receiving love from them is an impossible dream. Man can only watch from the sidelines as they suffer as they turn into sand. And you can't do anything about it. Ichiro knows from his past life that divorce is inevitable. Suddenly, the girl jumps up and starts running. She wants to leave the place where the pet died a few minutes ago as soon as possible. The dark-haired man does not look at his feet. All her thoughts revolve around the fleeting life of magical creatures. The girl clings to a stone with the toe of her shoe and falls. But Ichiro does not hit the cold ground. The dark-haired one lands face down on something black and soft, something leaves. The girl opens her eyes and examines the surface on which she lies. It is a huge black dragon, such as in fairy tales. The dark-haired woman opens her eyes wide. She can hardly believe that she is seeing a real dragon, the king of magical creatures. The animal, which was sleeping peacefully, raises its head and opens its emerald eyes. Ichiro flinches at the dragon's cold and distrustful gaze. The girl clenches her hands into fists, a bunch of thoughts in her head. Dragon? Wild. I see this for the first time. How huge. Will he rush at me? But it seems that the creature is not going to do this. It barely opens its mouth and says, "Man!" The dragon's voice is deep and somewhat raspy. The animal tells the girl to get out of here as soon as possible because there is nothing to see here. The dark-haired one is even more surprised. This dragon can talk. The girl examines the creature a second time and finally understands why it does not want to see anyone. The dragon's body is completely black. It is unlikely that this is its natural color. The creature's life is coming to an end. Very soon it will dissolve in the air. The dragon's heavy, hot breath only confirmed the girl's guesses. He does not take his eyes off the dark-haired woman. The girl notices that the creature has very beautiful eyes. The dark-haired one is no longer afraid of the dragon. He is just an animal in trouble and needs help. Ichiru decides to first get off the dragon's back, to take a closer look at it and figure out what to do next. Perhaps some healing herbs growing in this forest could help the creature. Dragon fur is very soft and fluffy. When the girl touches his cheek, she remembers her beloved dog Mafu, who was her faithful friend in a past life. The dark-haired one buries his face in the animal's fur. After a few seconds, the girl moves away from the animal. The dragon does not stop watching her closely. His breathing becomes heavier. The dark-haired man understands that the creature is in pain. Ichiru thinks, what should she do? Herbs are not a bad thing, but some of them are poisonous to animals. And the girl doesn't remember well which ones. Ichiru stomps in one place, trying to think of a way to ease the animal's suffering. She carefully runs her hand over the animal's fur. Then more and more and more. The dark-haired one hopes that this will help in some way. The dragon is surprised by such actions, but he does not growl at the girl and does not push her away from him. Ichiru notices the dragon's puzzled look and cautiously asks, "Doing it like that makes it calmer, right?" The girl is not sure that an animal of this size can and should be petted like a dog. But the dark-haired man cannot leave the dragon alone. It is very scary and painful to die in agony all by yourself. Not even so much painful as unpleasant. The dark-haired one remembers Mafa again. She didn't do anything for her dog, even though she could. But now the situation is different. There is no one in the forest except the dark-haired one, and she definitely won't be able to handle this dragon alone. It is only in her power to ease his suffering a little. The girl, without stopping stroking the creature, says to it, "I have water. Maybe you want a drink?" The dragon ponders the dark-haired man's offer. He tries to understand if the girl's intentions are good or if she just wants to make fun of him. "No, she doesn't look like an animal hater at all," the creature says in its mind. But he doesn't want to drink now. The dragon closes his eyes and says in a calm tone, "No need. It's easier for me now. Still bad, but easier." Tears appear in the eyes of the dark-haired woman. The girl clenches her hand into a fist from despair and excitement. Ichiru really wants to save the creature, but she can't do anything here in the forest, all by herself. Dark-haired says that she does not want to be so helpless, does not want to watch the death of animals, unable to help them. The girl stretches her hand forward. Dark-haired feels a breeze. After a few seconds, a warm yellowish glow appears near the girl's fingers. The girl opens her eyes wide. The light around the girl's palm forms a small transparent sphere, from which small white and blue sparks fly out. Ichiru is surprised. No, rather shocked. But she does not even have time to think about the origin and nature of this light. It hits the side of the dragon with a characteristic sound. Ichiru looks down at his hands. It took the girl a few seconds to realize that this powerful light was emitting from her hands. The dragon opens its eyes. He was interested in the actions of the dark-haired woman, but they do not seem suspicious to him, so he remains silent. Dark-haired decides to test the possibilities of his abilities. She snaps her fingers. The light hits the dragon's fur again. This blow is more powerful than the first, but the animal is not hurt. Pieces of something black begin to fall from the dragon's body, something like a film of sand. This film flies right at the girl. Ta tries to dodge the pieces of sand mixed with the cells of the creature's scales, but the girl's maneuver does not work. A thin layer of film settles on the face of the dark-haired woman. Ichiru opens his eyes wide. She did not expect such a turn of events. After a few seconds, the light emitted by the girl's hands flashes. The film disappears from the girl's body. But she squints so as not to be blinded by the bright light. The light begins to gradually fade and eventually disappears completely. The girl examines her palms to make sure that there is nothing left on them. Then the dark-haired one glares at the dragon. She opens her eyes wide when she sees that part of the creature's mane has become a bit cleaner. The girl is shocked. It took Ichiru a few minutes to realize that she was the one who removed the film of sand. The only question is how exactly she managed to do it. The light reappears on the dark-haired hand. The girl thinks it's magic, but she quickly rejects this assumption. Dark-haired reminds that only those with magical blood can use magic. It is she who allows you to touch the sand rain. Of course, not only animals have magic, but also people. But usually these are the children of rich aristocrats to which Ichiru does not belong. The girl looks at her hand again. "But I definitely see this glow," she says. "It's not clear what it is, but maybe I can do something about the process of sand accumulation in animal bodies." The girl, already aware, directs the stream of light to the dragon's mane. She turns her head towards the creature's head so it can hear her for sure. "Lord Dragon," the one in a rather rude form asks the dark-haired woman what she wants from him, but the girl does not pay attention to the tone of the dragon. A slightly crazy, but extremely attractive idea came to her mind. The dark-haired one lightly throws off her thin light cape from her shoulders, not worrying about the fact that it might get dirty from being on the ground. Now this thing will only bother Ichiru. The girl strains to summon a glow and directs it at the dragon. This time, the dark-haired man holds the stream of light for quite a while. Sweat begins to run down Ichiru's face. It is very difficult for the girl to use her power or whatever this strange glow is. The dark-haired man can barely breathe. She opens her eyes wide, trying to focus on the dragon as much as possible. However, the girl does not understand why she is so tired. If this is magic, Ichiru thinks to himself, shouldn't it be light and graceful? Not at all like I imagined. Finally, the glow works. A film of sand begins to disappear from the dragon's body. According to tradition, it settles on the hands and face of a dark-haired woman. Sand also got into the girl's eyes, so now she acts blindly. The dragon sees the girl's fatigue and suffering, so he asks her to leave. The animal says he doesn't know what the girl was doing, but that's enough for now. The dark-haired one clears his throat. She thinks about her next actions. It is useless to try to help someone who is already barely breathing. Dark-haired remembers the words of the teacher from the shelter that no one has yet managed to stop the process of sand accumulation. But the girl cannot retreat either. Although now it is impossible to say for sure whether it really cures, but it is worth trying. The dark-haired one spreads his arms and tells the dragon that he is going to hug him if his body lightens. Ichiru smiles and compliments the dragon. "You have such a beautiful furry collar around your neck. I like him so much. I really, really want to hug you." The dragon understands that there is no point in arguing with the dark-haired stubborn woman, so he says in a hoarse voice, "Have it your way." It seems that the creature smiled faintly. The girl squints. She is very pleased that the dragon did not frighten or chase her away. Helping someone who can calmly accept help is easier than helping someone who does not even allow themselves to be approached. The dark-haired man begins to cast a spell. Her white shirt is stained with black ash. The girl trembles from tension. But now all that doesn't matter. The main thing is to save the dragon from death. A glow flashes, blinding Ichira, but forced to stop for a moment. She leans on the dragon's tail, breathing hard. The girl notes that half of the animal's body has been cleaned. This is true. Now you can see the true color of the dragon, light green. The girl turns her head towards the animal's face to check if everything is okay with it. But the creature's eyes are closed. Dark-haired assumes that the dragon has fallen asleep. He's still sore, but his body and fur are generally cleaner. Behind all these worries about the dragon, the girl completely forgot about her own fatigue. The dark-haired woman's legs are trimmed. Ichiru falls to the ground. The girl glances at the dragon. The glow that the girl used helped, but not for long. Things are bad. A film of sand covered the clean areas of the animal's body. Again. The brunette realizes that she has no time to relax. She can't make that mistake again. The girl remembers how she took Mafa from the shelter. It was the dark-haired woman who reached out to his cage first, and the white Spitz puppy simply mirrored her actions. It smiled and pressed its little paw against the glass of the enclosure. The girl realized that getting a dog is a serious decision. Raising a pet is not as easy as it seems at first glance, but the girl did not particularly think about it. She simply enjoyed communication with Mafu and did not think about possible force majeure and problems. The dark-haired woman's hands tremble at the thought of her pet, from the thought that she went to work so easily when he was sick. Ichiru will never forgive himself for this. Now the dark-haired woman thinks that Mafu, her beloved Mafu, is sitting in her arms. Of course, all this is just an illusion. The dark-haired one understands this and lowers his eyes. But the image of Mafu does not disappear from her imagination. It seems to the girl that the dog is putting its short paws on her shoulders, trying to calm and comfort its mistress. When she does not respond to him, the Spitz starts barking. The dark-haired girl hugs him close, barely restraining herself from bursting into tears in the middle of the forest. After a few minutes, the vision about the dog ends. The girl wipes such untimely and inconvenient tears with her hand. She mentally tells herself that now is not the time to be sour. You need to save Mr. Dragon. Otherwise, he will die in 25 to 30 minutes. The girl looks around. Dry land, green bushes, trees. The dark-haired girl was reborn here in this strange, magical world, and she has to do something for the people of the Empire. She is simply obliged to at least try to save one of them. The girl directs a hopeful look at her hands. The dark-haired girl mentally begs all the gods to summon a healing glow. The girl rests her hand on the ground and stands up. She takes a few steps towards the dragon. Ichiru carefully climbs onto the creature's back. It does not react in any way to the touch of the dark-haired woman. Doesn't even move. This once again confirms that the dark-haired man cannot lower his hands. If she does, the dragon will simply die. The girl tries to summon a glow, but she does not succeed. It seems that the dark-haired woman is exhausted. She remembers the last moment from her past life. Then the dark-haired woman lay on the floor of her small, cozy apartment and muttered under her breath, "When I wake up, I will do everything right." The girl makes another attempt. A light spot begins to appear under her palm. It is getting bigger. The dark-haired man looks straight at the glow despite the pain in his eyes. Now she is as concentrated as possible. The dragon opens its eyes. After a few minutes, the black film of sand completely disappears from his skin. The dark-haired one is lying on his back. Using the glow drained her of all strength. The dragon no longer feels the heaviness caused by sand poison. He is surprised. The creature carefully stands up and examines its body. The dragon can't believe that he is now fully healthy. The creature finally notices Ichira lying on his cape. The creature is even more surprised. Is this really the handiwork of this child? The weakened girl mutters that everything is fine now. The dark-haired one thinks she needs to run now or the dragon will just eat her. But she can't get up. The trees and the sky. This is what the dark-haired woman saw before closing her eyes. The girl falls asleep. Some magical force picks her up and lifts her into the air. The girl does not move. She was so tired. Now she doesn't care what happens later. Besides, the dragon doesn't look evil. It is he who saves the girl now. For several seconds, the creature silently examines her. Then it starts to shine, iridescent with different colors. The dragon digs its claws into the ground. A ray of greenish light envelops his body. The massive paws of the creature turn into strong, slender legs in high boots. A minute or two later, a handsome, tall boy with greenish hair is already standing in the place of the dragon. He is dressed in a simple black shirt and pants of the same color. A young man takes a sleeping girl in his arms. He examines her carefully. Still, it's not every day you meet a girl who can save a magical creature from the poisonous effects of sand. Green-eyed smiles. He remembers the girl's words. "If Mr. Dragon gets better, I want to give you a big hug." The boy quietly asks the dark-haired girl if this will really be enough for her. Some time passes. Ichiru opens his eyes. Now she is in a modestly furnished but tidy room. The girl, carefully covered with a blanket, lies on a small single bed. The dark-haired one looks around. She notices a guy standing on the balcony. He seems to feel the gaze of the dark-haired woman. The young man turns to her. "Woke up?" He pushes back the green curtain and enters the room. The girl is shocked. She does not understand who it is and where she is. The dark-haired girl has so many questions, and she wants to know the answers to all of them. The guy guesses this and in a calm tone begins to talk about the room in which they are now. He says that this big white house is located in the forest. The girl does not listen to what the young man says. She is focused on his voice. He seems very familiar to the dark-haired man. So deep and creaky. The dark-haired man examines the young man from head to toe, and the eyes are familiar. In the end, Ichiru guesses that this mysterious and incredibly handsome young man is none other than the dragon she found in the forest. The young man confirms her guesses. He also explains the reason why he reincarnated into a human. A dragon simply wouldn't fit in a house. The reincarnation took place with the help of magic. The girl stares into the boy's eyes. They are as beautiful as a dragon's, the same emerald and bright. The dark-haired woman had never seen such eyes before. She asks the young man, "So this is the Dragon Lord's house?" The guy recommends himself. "Hisui." The girl does not really understand how to properly address the young man. so she decides to clarify. Hisui-san? Then the girl says her name, Ichiru. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a small gray creature jumps on the dark-haired man. It is glad that Ichiru is finally awake. When the creature calms down, the girl realizes that it is a bunny. The gray kid smiles. I'm a rabbit spirit, Fuka. But you can call me Fuka-chan. The girl is about to get up, but Fuka stops her. He tells Ichiru in a small voice that she hasn't woken up all week, so she better not make any sudden moves. The girl does not contradict. She mentally notes that the bunny looks very cute. The boy turns to the animal. He scolds her for crossing the barrier without permission. He orders Fuku to turn back, but the animal does not want to do so. Bunny says that he really wants to know what happened to Hisui, and why he came home with some girl in his arms. The young man takes Fuka by the pants and says angrily, Maybe I should eat you before you mess up something extra, although you look tasteless. The bunny smiles and convinces the boy that everything is under control. Fuku adds, I didn't say anything, but I heard something very interesting. The boy knows that the bunny is very talkative, so he hastens to throw the animal out of the window. He is not afraid that Fuku might fall. This magical creature can fly. The young man closes the curtain and says that Fuku is the main scourge of these places. The girl opened her eyes wide. She is still worried that Hisui will turn into a dragon and eat her. But after a few minutes, the girl calms down. She assumes that Hisui-san has been taking care of her all this time. If he wanted to eat the dark-haired one, he would do it right away. Ichiri examines the jacket she is wearing. These clothes are clearly too big for a girl. She looks around. Hisui's house is also beautiful. Dark-haired wonders if the young man often spends time here in human form. By the window, there is a round table and a chair on which hangs the girl's cape. The dark-haired girl had never met real dragons until now. Not in the past life, not in this one. There are books on the shelf of the only closet in the room. Many books. The girl wonders if they have any information about the dragons. Before going to the forest, the dark-haired girl learned about magical creatures. But there was very little information about dragons. And what she found was more like fiction. Dragons are sacred animals, close to the gods. They are one of the most dangerous creatures. But Hisui doesn't look like a monster. The girl looks at her clothes. A cape hangs on the back of a chair, pants and a shirt are neatly folded on a stool. Things are clean and ironed. The dark-haired one wonders what kind of character Hisui has. After a few minutes, she leaves these thoughts. Now the most important thing is that the young man looks completely healthy. The one who was already ready to turn into black ash did not die, but survived. The girl's eyes widen at the realization of the fact that it was she who saved Hisui's life. The young man sees the confused state of the dark-haired woman and asks, Does something hurt? A few tears appear in Ichiru's eyes, which she quickly wipes away with her hand. The girl says that everything is fine with her, so that Hisui does not ask unnecessary and uncomfortable questions. The dark-haired one is interested in his condition. How are you? Is your body normal? The guy answers, You see for yourself. The young man leans against the wall, crosses his arms over his chest and asks if she used healing magic on him. At first, the girl does not really understand what he is talking about, but after a few seconds she remembers how she helped the dragon, how she removed the sand film from him with the help of a strange glow, and how tired she was after that. She realizes that the young man is waiting for an answer, so she says, Well, I guess so. After a few seconds, the dark-haired man asks Hisui if it was really magic, just in case. The girl says that then in the forest she used this glow for the first time. The old man is surprised. He was saved by a child who had never practiced magic. The brunette looks down and says she thought she was doing something wrong and then she just passed out. The girl examines her hands. Suddenly Fuku flies into the room. Bunny climbs onto Ichiru's shoulder and exclaims in shock, Healing magic? This kid healed Hisui? Yeah! The girl opens her eyes wide. Fuku appeared so unexpectedly, but the animal does not pay attention to the girl's reaction. He jumps happily. Finally, a healer has appeared that can stop the process of sand accumulation in the bodies of magical creatures. Healer? No. Ichiru waves the bunny away. The girl cannot believe that she, an orphan abandoned by her parents in the middle of the city on the road, has some magical gift. Fuku nods his head. Zaichik is convinced that he was not mistaken. This simply cannot be. The dark-haired one asks what he even means. The creature understands that the girl is completely ignorant of magical ranks. Fuku decides to explain everything to her. First, he asks the dark-haired man, "Do you know that healers are called pharmacists?" The girl gives an affirmative answer. Bunny raises one paw and says that pharmacists are the most common doctors in the empire. Studying to become a pharmacist is quite difficult, but possible. These doctors usually work in hospitals. They examine patients, mix medicines, and care for others without magic. Both people and animals can be pharmacists. Healers belong to a completely different caste of doctors. These are magicians who use healing magic for treatment. There are only a few such doctors in the empire. They either serve in the royal court or travel the world. The healing magic used by healers is the most versatile of all types of magic. They say there is nothing better in the world than receiving such a healing. This magic is so rare that it is also called God's blessing. Fuku smiles and adds, "And yet even she didn't save magical creatures from sand poisoning." The bunny jumps up high. "But Ichiru-chan, you are the only one who managed to cure this disease, so you just have incredible healing magic." Fuku says that to stop the process of accumulation of sand in the bodies of magical creatures, doctors have tried many methods, but they all turned out to be ineffective. There are also various practices that seem to help prevent poisoning of the animal body. Fuku does not believe in them. The bunny points to the green-eyed youth, but here stands Hisui, who was literally one step away from turning into sand. Fuku says that now the young man is blooming and fragrant, and all this thanks to the dark-haired. The bunny grabs the girl's hand. He, despite his small size, helps her get out of bed. Fuku starts circling the room with the girl and joyfully says, "Finally, God has forgiven the magical creatures and sent them such a pardon. Unbelievable." Magical creatures will no longer disappear due to sand poisoning. The dark-haired man opens his eyes wide. She can't believe that her dream of saving animals has finally come true. The girl asks the cheerful Fuku if she can heal other magical creatures as well. Hisui silently observes the conversation between the dark-haired girl and the bunny. Previously, the dark-haired woman kept her distance from magical creatures because she knew that poisoning their bodies with sand was an inevitable process. She was afraid of the pain that would arise after the divorce. But if the girl really knows how to heal magical creatures, then she will be able to become closer to them. She will have a lot of interesting and smart friends. This was what the dark-haired woman had been craving all her life. The dark-haired one looks down at the floor, unable to believe that this isn't just another good dream. Hisui grabs the bunny by the ears. "This is what you've been wanting." Fuku crosses his paws on his chest and says with a smug smile that after the young man's death, he was going to become the master of this house, but he could not think that he would get something more. Hisui realizes that the bunny was joking about the house, but throws him out of the window of the house anyway. The one with the cry, "Whoa!" lands on one of the trees. The young man turns to the dark-haired woman. Ta silently looks at him, not understanding what he expects from her. Hisui said nothing for several minutes. This is already starting to alarm the girl. Finally, the young man says, "Don't listen to this bandit, it's just words so easy and simple." Parubok says that there is no evidence that the girl has healing magic. The expression on the face of the dark-haired woman immediately becomes gloomy. The young man asks her to forget Fuku's incredible tales of magic. The girl lowers her head. She is very upset. The dark-haired girl only saw a glimmer of hope and lost it so quickly, although she expected this. Where can orphans get magical abilities? Hisui also looks at the floor. The boy looks at the purple carpet, trying not to think about how much he upset the dark-haired. The young man tries to distract her from sad thoughts. He says that he remembers the contract. Hisui takes the girl's hands. "We can do it right now." The girl is surprised. "Contract?" Again, she does not understand what is being said. Ichiru also mentally notes that the young man's hands are very hot. The guy reminds the dark-haired girl that she wanted to hug him. The girl freezes in place. She doesn't remember when she said that. The young man lightly pulls the dark-haired man by the hand and calmly says, "The wish you made, risking your life." The young man says that he agreed. Hisui leans into the shocked girl's face. "As you wished, now I'll let you do whatever you want with me." A boy and a girl go outside. Hisui transforms into a dragon. He lies down on the ground and begins to look expectantly at the dark-haired man, and she never ceases to be amazed at its dimensions. Here the girl remembers what she said to the dragon when he was sick. If you feel better, if your body becomes light, I'll give you a big hug. The dark-haired one starts to laugh. She finally understood what Hisui meant by contract. The girl tells the dragon that she was drunk then, but the creature is not going to retreat so quickly. It continues to lie still and stare at the girl. Ta once again examines the dragon's body, thinking about how to approach it. The dark-haired man takes a step towards the creature. Yes, Hisui is hard to call small, but even he can be hugged. The girl falls on the light and soft mane of the dragon. Ichiru closes his eyes and sighs dreamily. She really likes to hug creatures. It is so cute, pleasant, and calm. The girl had never felt so happy. Darkhair tells the dragon that his fur feels much nicer to the touch after being healed. She remembers her sweet Mafu, a favorite from a past life. Tears appear in the girl's eyes. They flock to the dragon's fur. The dark-haired one quietly sobs. The dragon glares at her. He is surprised that Ichiru is crying. She tells Hisui that his fur smells like young leaves and fresh greens. A very pleasant and soothing aroma. She buries her nose in the dragon's mane. The dragon does not take his eyes off the dark-haired woman. He calls her a little child. The girl, not letting go of the fur of the animal, says, "I recently celebrated my coming of age." But Hisui still considers her small. He tells the dark-haired woman that it is time for her to go back to town. It does not contradict. Ichiru releases the dragon and asks if she can come back here. "Didn't you hug me?" the creature asks sarcastically. The girl gives the dragon a lot of compliments. "But Hisui-san is so incredible and soft, and it smells great. I want to enjoy this moment." The creature is surprised. The dragon closes his eyes, turns his head to the side, and says, "If you don't go back now, the sun will set and you'll have to walk home in total darkness." The creature also asks the girl to never use magic again. Whatever happens there, you can't tell about it either. The dark-haired man is surprised by such warnings. "What?" she asks. The dragon glares at her. The dark-haired woman shivers. These eyes look into the very soul. The creature looks stern and serious. The dragon raises his claw to the girl and says that no one should know about her magical abilities and what happened to his body. It can be dangerous. Furui is a quiet town, but if rumors spread that it is possible to stop the process of sand accumulation in the body, there will be an uproar. Dark-haired simply will not be able to cope with a huge flow of customers. Also, this healing can turn out to be a deception. Then the creatures will be disappointed. They will not even be disappointed, but angry. The girl listens carefully to the dragon. He turns to the boy. "Hisui says seriously that you wouldn't wish such misfortune as the distrust of others on anyone." He orders the girl never to get involved in such a thing. Evening. The street of the town of Prui. The windows of many houses have not been lit for a long time. Local residents sleep in warm beds and have sweet dreams. Ichiru quietly opens the door to his small cabin. The girl goes inside and flops down on the bed. It was a difficult day. She needs to think about everything. But she is not allowed to do this by Fuku, who got out from nowhere. The dark-haired man opens his eyes wide in surprise. The bunny exclaims, "This guy can scare the crap out of him, can't he? I'd better take care of myself." The girl is shocked by the appearance of a bunny. He apologizes for the unexpected intrusion. Fuku speaks as if he is certain that Ichiru has healing magic. Otherwise, how would she cure the young man? The girl remembers Hisui's instructions and says that she can't talk about it. Fuku approaches the girl's bed. Zaishik says that such things cannot be hidden from him. The dark-haired one says that she has nothing of value. The bunny smiles. "That's not what I'm talking about, oh my!" He reclines on the back of the girl's bed as if he owns the house. The bunny begins his story. "When Ichiru-chan came back from the forest, you had such an expression on your face as if you could not come to terms with something. That's why I decided to tell you something that will make you happy." The girl raises her eyebrows questioningly. Fuku squints and says that there is one way to know the true nature of a person's or an animal's magic, without making too much noise. To do this, you need to pass a magical examination in the palace. The dark-haired man opens his eyes wide. Expertise? She had never heard of such a thing, which in principle was not surprising. The children of the asylum were not told much about magic. Fuku says that there is an expert in the palace who analyzes magical properties and abilities. All information about the results of the inspection is carefully guarded. Although submitting an application for the collection of the evaluation commission is not a cheap pleasure, The girl asks the bunny how much it costs. Fuku puts his paw to his mouth. He quietly calls the dark-haired man the right amount into his ear. Ichiru lowers his eyes to the floor. It is too expensive. Fuku laughs. Yeah, if you want to try, you'll have to save money. But it's worth it. If the girl's magic really turns out to be healing, Ichiru will become a healer. She will be helped by various influential people. And the work of healers is very well paid. Dark-haired will even be able to afford to live like a real princess. The girl stares at Fuka in disbelief. He nods his head. Yes? Do not believe? This is the pure truth. Dark-haired points out that the bunny knows a lot. Fuku smiles proudly. Of course, I'm an adult. The girl asks the creature not to tell about what happened today. He reluctantly agrees, and that just because Hisui can eat him for it. Fuku begins to fidget on the bed. He awkwardly asks the girl if he deserves an award for a detailed account of magic. The girl is smiling. Bunny winks at her. And instead of paying for information, will you use magic on me? Ichiru was expecting a similar request. This is exactly what Hisui had warned her about. The bunny folds its paws. Please. He assures the dark-haired man that he will not complain to anyone if something does not work out. And the young dragon, of course, won't know anything about it either. Fuku jumps onto Ichiru's lap and looks into her eyes, hoping she won't reject him. The dark-haired one hesitates. She is afraid to use magic, especially after Hisui's warnings. He didn't say it just like that. This guy seems wise and sure knows something. But curiosity wins over reason. The girl decides to hang the windows in the room and try. The girl asks Fuka how to use magic. Fuku understands that in the forest, the girl did it by accident in a state of effect. Now she needs to learn to consciously summon the healing glow. And Fuku is ready to become the dark-haired girl's first teacher. He says with feigned seriousness, since Ichiru-chan has only recently become aware of magical power, let's go into more detail. Psychic says that magic is an invisible mystical substance, the so-called element that fills the world. This element can manipulate things and change their appearance and form. To use magic, you need to summon your element and have enough magical power. But if it worked once, then there should be no problems in the future. Fuku says that the girl is able to manipulate an element of her knowledge. In any case, it's all in the power of imagination. Surprised, the girl asks, is magic related to emotions? Dark-haired remembers how she cleansed the dragon. Sand was then sucked out of Hisui's body, apparently. Then the grains of sand settled on the girl and disappeared, as if they were hiding. But Ichiru was not very happy to feel the sand on his body. The girl looks at her hands. If everything really depends on my perception, then it would be better to do it somehow more carefully. After thinking for a minute, the girl tells Fuku that she will try. He jumps up. Yeah, let's try. Dark-haired tells the bunny not to twitch. She waves her hand lightly. A warm glow appears on Ichiru's palm. The girl directs him to Fuka. She, as in the case of the dragon, is as concentrated as possible. Although the dark-haired woman is a little scary, she does not show it. You don't need to scare yourself or Fuka. The girl gives herself various instructions on how to use magic. Only with the right hand. Don't thicken the sand. Soon a swarm of black grains of sand flies out of the bunny's body. Ichiru smiles at the corner of his mouth. She is doing well so far. So, everything is not so hopeless. Fuku has one eye squinted from the sand. After a few minutes, it turns completely white. The bunny jumps up with joyful screams. He is very glad that the girl was able to free his body from the poisonous sand. The creature begins to jump around the room. I am full of magical power and energy. I'm not cold at all. Such a light body. I think I'm about to take off. Later, the bunny calms down and falls on the girl's bed. He turns to Ichiru, intending to thank her for the miraculous healing. Thanks to the dark-haired Fuku, he will now live a very long time. But Ichiru isn't really ready to talk right now. The girl lies on the bed and breathes loudly. The bunny excitedly asks the girl how she feels. The dark-haired woman opens her eyes and says that she is a little tired. She mentally notes that she has managed to adjust her magic. But something remained unchanged. The loss of strength after healing. But maybe it will pass with experience. Fuka squints. I'm sorry for making you tense up, but my body is incredibly light now. Like fluff. And look, my natural color is back. I just can't believe it. Ichiru, who has already regained consciousness, carefully asks the bunny what will happen if this is not a guaranteed result. She fears that Fuku will turn black again after a while. But the bunny doesn't seem to care much about it. He says he's still happy even if it's a temporary result. It is quite enough for him. The girl looks at Fuka. He says that this is exactly the magic of healing. The dark-haired man remembers Husui's words about the disappointment of magical beings if the healing is temporary. Bunny squints and thanks Ichiru. He is so happy that there are tears in his eyes. The creature did not expect that it would ever be able to get rid of this cursed sand. Ichiru looks up at the ceiling. The dark-haired one hopes that Fuku will not turn black again. She also admits to herself that she wants to know the nature of her magic. The girl carefully wipes a tear from the bunny's cheek. The dark-haired one smiles at him. Please. Fuku seems very cute to her. The girl is ready to do anything so that her meetings with magical creatures do not stop. Meanwhile, Hisui looks out the window from his large house in the forest. Green-eyed thinks about Ichira and her abilities. A few kilometers away, in a small hut, the girl is just asking Fuka about healers and magical expertise. A small black spot appears on Hisui's pale neck, which will later spread throughout his body. The boy turns away from the window and touches his wound. Sand rain is especially abundant today. Fuku asks the dark-haired one if she can heal herself. The girl says that it is hardly possible. Morning. The dark-haired one eats coffee and pancakes in the shape of a hare's head for breakfast. Fuka is here too. The girl tells the creature that she would like to take a magical assessment. But the evaluation fee is very expensive, so Ichiru will have to wait until she accumulates the necessary amount. Fuka, eating some pink fruit, wishes the girl luck. The dark-haired woman raises a cup of tea to her lips. The bunny laughs. Gods, what should I do with my restored body? So far I have had no wealth, and I didn't enjoy popularity because of sand poisoning. Fuka bites into the fruit and says that usually when using magic, the poisoning spreads throughout the body. But in the case of Ichiru, this is not the case. The girl is surprised. How can this be? People do not have magical power. Fuku calmly says that the dark-haired woman has not only human blood, but also the blood of magical creatures. Ichira looks at the tightly closed door. She asks the bunny if a magical assessment can tell. Fuku says that in any case, once the girl leaves the house, she should not use magic. The dark-haired woman spreads plum jam on the pancake. She assures the bunny that she will be careful. After a few seconds, the girl asks if nothing will happen if she quietly reads something about healing magic in the library. The dark-haired girl has a lot of questions. What exactly is the essence of her magical power? How powerful is it? Knowledge will help Ichiru use his magic in different ways. When the girl tried to treat herself, nothing worked. But maybe there is some way to do it, maybe not alone. This is exactly what the girl thinks about while chewing toast with jam. She remembers cleaning Fuka. The dark-haired is now known to be able to remove sand from the bodies of magical creatures, restore their bodies to their true color, and restore life and magical energy. The girl tells Fuka that toast with jam is very tasty. Bunny says he bought them at his favorite bakery, and he also has a present for Ichiru. The girl stretches her hand forward. Fuku places a gold earring with a precious stone in the palm of the dark-haired woman. Ichiru asks if she can really accept such an expensive gift. The bunny smugly says that the earring is not decorated with a precious stone, but with a fragment of Hisui's scales, taken as it were from the tail. The dark-haired man opens his eyes wide. She asks Fuka how he managed to get this rare piece of jewelry. The bunny says that he had to cheat. With the help of this shard, you can pass the barrier around Hisui's house. The girl is indignant. She considers the bunny's actions theft and is afraid that Hisui will get angry. But Fuku himself doesn't think like that. Right? Besides, do you want to see him again? The girl stares at the creature. Fuku winks at her. If anything, you can just say I made you accept it. Fine? The girl looks at the gift from the little bunny. The dark-haired one reminds me of Hisui-san. He is an extremely beautiful and majestic dragon. But he looks no worse in the image of a boy. The girl wants to know how the green-eyed one is doing. A few minutes later, Ichiru and Fuku go outside. On the girl's ear is an earring with a fragment of a dragon's scale. Bunny says that the ornament has a protective magic that will protect Ichira. Fuku asks the girl to wear an earring every time she goes out. After that, the bunny says goodbye to the dark-haired one and jumps away. Ichiru looks at the bunny and then jumping up goes somewhere. The girl is dressed in a spacious white shirt and a blue dress. The hair of the dark-haired woman is gathered in a tail. Ichiru thinks about Hisui-san. She would like to brush the dragon's mane when she met him again. If you buy a large quality brush, Hisui's fur will become even softer. And in general, the dark-haired man says in his mind, it's a sin to be so fluffy. But the girl quickly calms down, convincing herself that envy is bad. Ichiru is passing a stone arch when suddenly he hears women's voices. My baby loves it when I brush his fur. I do this several times a day. The girl cautiously peeks out from around the corner and sees two well-dressed women near the stairs leading up. One of them says that she wants to buy an animal with nice fur somewhere. Ichiru is somewhat surprised by what he sees and hears. The girl does not understand what rich ladies could need in such a place, and their conversation sounds very strange. The women talk for a few more minutes and then open a gray, inconspicuous door in the wall and go inside. Ichiru wonders where the two ladies she overheard went. The girl looks inside the room, and she immediately gets scared. The reason is a huge bear with blue cheeks looking directly at the dark-haired one. He waves to the girl, but he understands that it's just a costume. But why is this suit needed? Sellers usually don't dress like that. The bear examines the girl from head to toe and notices a gold earring in her ear. He waves his hand and lets the dark-haired woman in, closing the door behind her. The girl enters a large hall with a stage hung with a turquoise cloth. There are 8 chairs in the middle of the hall. Ichira is quickly placed on one of them. The girl is also given some strange black mask to hide her face and a card with the number 8 in the same color. Dark-haired does not understand what is happening here. The ladies she saw on the street are also sitting in chairs and talking to each other. They say that today will be a lot of fun. There are a lot of aristocrats in the hall. Apparently something grandiose is being planned. A bear in a black top hat and a heart-shaped eye approaches the stage and greets the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for visiting our animal puppet auction. I assure you, our toys are masterpieces. Ichiru's mouth drops open in surprise. A doll auction. So the conversation was about dolls? Oh, I think I got to the wrong place. Be careful and quiet. The bear, elegantly befitting his build, waves a black-gloved paw and says, let me show you a beautiful animal doll, a wolf boy. Someone lifts the curtain. Those present in the hall see a turquoise couch with 3 pillows on the stage. A light-haired boy of incredible beauty with wolf ears and claws on his feet sits on it, wrapped in chains. After a second, he opens his yellow eyes and stares into the audience. People are amazed by his beauty. Wow, It seems that there will be many people willing to buy it. The girl herself is surprised by the fragility of the boy. She covers her mouth with her hand in shock. However, something is wrong here. The dark-haired man does not understand why he is moving. The boy turns his head to the side. Ichiru opens his eyes wide. She really doesn't like what's happening now. This unusual place is evil, just like the people in it. The boy twitches and grinds his teeth. The clanking of the chains chained to the blue collar is heard. Dark-haired freezes in place. She realizes that this child is not a doll. The doll can open and close its eyes, move and turn its head to the side, but make faces. No, dolls are not capable of this. An ordinary beast child is sitting on the couch. The girl looks around the hall. People's reaction shocks her. Where are they looking? Why do they continue to sit quietly in soft chairs and smile as if nothing had happened? As if selling a child is a normal practice. Did they know everything? It looks like this. One of the guests is a gentleman in a red suit sitting leaning on the arm of a chair. The man was somewhat tired. Okay, people don't care. But what about law enforcement agencies? Do they not see? Finally, the girl realizes that this is a shadow auction. Meanwhile, the fun continues. One of the bears praises the new doll. Pay attention to the snow-white skin. And what is the platinum color worth? The boy clenches his hands into fists. He is hostile to the public because he is afraid of it. The bear notices this and tells those present in the hall that the doll has only passed the first stage of training. Its owner will get the most interesting. The hall buzzes with excitement. One of the women says that this boy will be a great addition to her collection. Another, a blonde middle-aged lady, claims that there is nothing better for a doll than devotion to its owner. The gentleman in red, who had almost fallen asleep a few minutes ago, also perked up. The man is shaking with excitement. What stubbornness in the boy's eyes. It will be necessary to teach him to obey well. The expression on the face of the dark-haired woman is filled with horror at the thought that a pervert wants to buy the poor child from the stage. He will definitely do terrible things to the boy that will break the already fragile child's psyche. The bear, who takes everything that happens in the hall as the norm, names the starting amount for the boy. 1,000,000 zlotys. Immediately there are those who are ready to offer more. For example, 1,300,000, 1.5 million. The dark-haired woman is frantically thinking about what to do. She cannot just sit and watch this spectacle. Meanwhile, the gentleman in red offers 3,000,000 zlotys. Ichiru sees that no one dares to name a higher amount. Well, the girl will have to take matters into her own hands. She jumps up, holds up a card with a number, and shouts, 5,000,000. A desperate decision, especially if you only have 1,000 zlotys in your pocket, like a dark-haired woman. There is silence in the hall. People are not ready to pay so much money for a doll, no matter how beautiful it is. Ichiru freezes in place with the card in his hands. The girl only now realized what exactly she said. The dark-haired woman is very aware of her budget, but there is no other way out. She doesn't want the wolf child to be bought by some pervert. The gentleman in red frowns. He thinks about what he should do. The man did not plan to spend more than 3,000,000 on a new toy, but he does not want to give the boy to someone else. A gentleman wants to have this doll in his collection. He raises his hand with the card and calmly but loudly says, 10,000,000 zlotys. The girl turns her head towards the man in red. The dark-haired woman wants to say something, but she can't. She doesn't even have 5,000,000, let alone 10 or more. A bear with a heart-shaped eye exclaims, 10,000,000. He says it's time to start the countdown. The seller asks if anyone wants to offer more. People in the hall are silent. The bear starts counting. His colleague taps a wooden board with a hammer in time with the seller's words. Very soon the account is coming to an end. The bear says that the doll was sold to number 7. The gentleman smiles out of the corner of his mouth. The bear approaches the boy and greets him. A frightened child rudely responds, "Shut up." She wants to say something else to the seller, but she can't. Only sounds incomprehensible to the public fly out of her mouth. "No, not." The boy is too nervous to speak clearly. His mumbling only makes the audience laugh. After all, the child manages to say, "I am not a toy." The boy orders the bear to let him go. The seller approaches the boy from behind. The clanking of shackles is heard. The boy shivers. The bear leans over to the child and asks in a sweet voice, "Do you remember the sound of the collar switch?" The seller presses a small button in his hand. The boy nods his head. The bear continues, "Maybe you still remember what happens if you press the button all the way. This collar has a secret mechanism that contains rain of sand." The bear adds that the sand is very concentrated, similar to the one that fell during the sand rain a few days ago. Such sand can kill even a huge dragon, let alone a child. The seller says that if you press a button on the back of the collar, a needle will appear that will inject sand into the victim's neck. Even the magical power surrounding the creature's body will not help in such a case. And if you press the button for a few minutes, everything can end tragically. The boy will simply disappear. Only clothes and a small pile of black sand will remain from him. The bear reminds the boy what happened to his forest friend, the little squirrel. Once one of the sellers killed her with a collar. It was easy. He simply pressed the button on the collar a few seconds longer than usual. The protein simply dissolved. The black sand spread through the dungeon. Dark-haired imagines this terrible picture. The girl freezes in place. She was surprised not so much by the fact of the squirrel's death, but by the very tone of the bear, in which he told about the killing of the magical creature. The seller seems proud of what he or one of his associates has done. The audience in the hall also behaves completely calmly. Do aristocrats consider bullying someone to be the norm? But for a dark-haired woman, as well as for a conscious part of society, such actions will always be a crime. A gentleman in red gets up from his chair and approaches the boy. Ichiru leans forward, ready to jump out of his seat at any moment. The girl thinks that she herself cannot do anything now. Someone should be told about this horror. And for this, first you need to get out of this rotten place. The dark-haired man gets up from his chair and takes a step towards the door. But one of the bears does not allow the girl to pass. She just can't get out of here. The seller touches the earring in Ichiru's ear with his paw. The girl is surprised. She asks the bear what he means. After a few seconds, the dark-haired man guesses that the bear demands an entrance fee. But the girl cannot give him the earring. This is the key to Hisui-san's house. The dark-haired one shakes her head, hinting to the bear that she will not let him take the ornament. The salesman looms over the dark-haired man and begins to growl. In this way, he wants to intimidate Ichira and force her to do what he needs. Meanwhile, the gentleman in red is already having a conversation with the boy. The man says to the child, "It seems that he wandered the forest alone for several months. So pathetic and scared. No wonder at all." Gentleman says that these are the kind of children who end up in places like this. He touches the boy's cheek with his hand and adds, "But don't be afraid. I will surround you with love and care." From now on, the boy will have a rich life. And when he understands that living as a doll is happiness, the man will take off his collar. A gentleman clasps the boy's face with his hands. He guesses that the man's words about a prosperous and happy life are lies, an attempt to bribe his doll, to lead her into a trap. A boy bites a gentleman's palm. Wolf cubs have sharp teeth. The child growls angrily, "Well, the abomination! Ruby, put away, old man!" The man rubs his wounded palm and stares at the boy with a cold and suspiciously calm gaze. The gentleman raises his hand to his face and repeats the insulting word that the boy uttered a moment ago. "Old man." Instead of Mr., right? The man asks. There is anger mixed with resentment in his voice. The man begins to tremble. He wants to play with the child just now, but restrains himself. A gentleman needs to enjoy the power over the doll to the fullest. But the man is not going to tolerate such an insulting appeal. He reaches for the button on the boy's collar and presses it. He starts screaming from pain and fear. The man is smiling. The suffering of a child brings this damned sadist incredible pleasure. He says to the boy, "You know, you already belong to me." The man takes the child in his arms. He does not stop shouting. Ichiru, who has been fighting the seller in a bear costume all this time, turns his attention to the boy. The audience watches the child's suffering and even discusses it. A small black spot appears on the boy's face. Sand begins to act on the child's body. At this rate, the little one will die very soon. The gentleman continues to hold the button on his collar. The man tells the boy that this is punishment for using a vulgar word. A man revels in his power over a helpless child. He whispers, "It hurts, right? Terrible. Don't be afraid. I will stop, but only when you say, 'I apologize to the master.'" Pokidoc presses the boy closer to him and orders him to speak. But the little one is barely breathing. The man's hands and the collar are slowly strangling him. The boy squirms in his master's arms. The child cries and trembles. After a few seconds, the boy manages to pronounce several letters, P and E. Suddenly, the gentleman is knocked off his feet by a huge head from the bear suit. The man lets the child go. This head was thrown by Ichiru. She was still able to fight off one of the bears. Another seller approaches the dark-haired woman, the same one who talked about killing a little squirrel without any remorse. "What are you making?" he throats. Ichiru frowns and takes a step towards the bear. An evil light flashes in her eyes. "That's what I wanted to ask you. What the hell are you doing here?" The salesman from whose suit the dark-haired girl has torn off her head runs through the hall trying to catch up with part of her body. Ichiru decides to help him. She raises her head and hits the seller with all her might. Then the girl turns her head towards the child. Although now the boy is not being strangled by the pervert's hands, he is still in danger. The button on the collar is still pressed. Ichiru remembers the young dragon's words. "No matter what happens, don't ever use magic again, do you understand?" Then the girl promised to obey Hisui. But she is not sure that she will be able to keep her word. Not when a small child is blackened by sand and convulses. The dark-haired man feels he has to do everything he can to save the boy. Tears are streaming down the little one's face. He tries to remove the collar or at least move the needle away from his throat. The boy shouts, "I'm sorry." The girl jumps up and runs to the boy. She stretches out her hands to him and at the same time conjures up a magical healing glow. It can save the child. And of course, the dark-haired one turns off the button on the collar. The boy is relaxing on the couch. Ichiru rushes to envelop him in a soothing and warm glow. She is now doing a very useful but dangerous job. There are still many people in the hall, and the guards apparently have already come to their senses. A fragment of a dragon's scale glistens on the girl's ear. A seller in a one-eyed bear mask runs up to a dark-haired woman, intending to do something evil to her. But he does not have time to do this. A white light flashes around the girl and the child. The clinking of shackles is heard. An earring given to Ichiru Fuka falls to the floor. It was this ornament that caused the white light that now enveloped the dark-haired boy and the boy. Everyone in the hall freezes in place. The gentleman in red is scared. He asks one of the bears what is happening now. The white light transforms into a sphere in the shape of a hare's head. Ichiru does not pay attention to the audience. Now the girl is focused on the child. The dark-haired one does not take his eyes off the boy, trying to understand how else he can be helped. The little one no longer screams. He just lies on the couch and holds the collar in his hands. Ichiru is going to take that damn thing off the boy that almost killed him a few minutes ago. The girl stretches her hand to the child's neck. The dark-haired man notices that the sand has disappeared from the boy's body. So the magic worked. This is already good. When Ichiru touches the collar with his hand, the little one flinches. The girl immediately takes her hand away from the boy's neck. Ichiru thinks she hurt him, but it is not so. The little boy quietly says to the girl, "Don't touch it, you will die." The dark-haired man opens his eyes wide in surprise. She doesn't really understand how you can die from touching a collar. He seems to harm only magical creatures. The boy notices the girl's reaction and explains. Everyone who touched him died. After a few seconds, the little one falls asleep. He is too tired today. Meanwhile, chaos reigns outside the realm. A seller in a bear mask says to his colleague, "Is this a barrier? I knew that girl number 8 was weird." The pervert who almost took the boy to his home now looks miserable. He whines like a child who has not been bought an expensive toy. The man calls the dark-haired woman a thief, but the girl doesn't care. She looks at the white glow that hangs over her and the boy. Ichiru tries to figure out what it is. The sphere is thinning. The girl understands that soon her protection will disappear. She tries to break the chains so that the boy can at least get up from the couch. But the dark-haired one can't do anything. Iron is too strong. Yes, the sellers took good care that the little one could not escape. Ichiru starts to feel dizzy. Perhaps it was because the girl had recently used magic. One of the bears orders his colleague to grab the dark-haired one. The girl is getting worse. She can barely stand on her feet. Ichiru thinks this is the end. When she loses consciousness, she will be killed, and the boy will be taken by a pervert in red. But no, the dark-haired one will not die today. Hisui appears from somewhere dressed in a dark green cloak. The young man picks up the girl by the arms so that she does not fall. Hisui looks into the girl's eyes. She was surprised by the appearance of the young man. The dark-haired one asks him, "Are they hallucinating?" The guy convinces her that he is real. Ichiru does not understand how the dark-haired man ended up here. The guy says that he was dragged out of the house by the scoundrel Fuka. The puzzle in the girl's head is being assembled. She remembers the bunny's words that an earring with a fragment of a dragon's scale will protect her. That's what Fuku meant, the dark-haired man says in his mind. The young man says, "I didn't think he had enough magic left to contact me." The bunny used special symbols to inform Hisui that Ichiru had used magic in the city. Fuku hit her, and the boy had to do the rest. Now the green-eyed man is interested in why the girl is crying. He is afraid that she has been hurt. Ichiru says she's fine and turns his gaze to the boy sleeping peacefully on the couch. The little one still does not let go of the collar. Ichiru takes Hisui's hands and says that this child was sold as a slave, as a doll. He was probably caught in the woods. Then they took him to some basement and threatened him with a torture device filled with sand rain. The girl remembers how the scumbag in red held the button on the boy's collar. The young man squints at the child. That's how. What the little one suffered was so terrible that even now, in safety, the child is afraid of any noise. The girl lowers her head and says with sadness in her voice that she is very sorry for the boy. He is still very small, but he has already suffered a lot of abuse from adults. Hisui asks the dark-haired, "So you cured this child?" Dark-haired, not looking at the young man, says that it is true, that she remembers Hisui's instructions, but could not do otherwise. The young man is not going to scold the dark-haired man for carelessness. She did a good job. He approaches the boy and breaks the chains with his hands. The girl is shocked. Hisui possesses incredible strength if he was able to handle metal without special tools or magic. After a few minutes, the young man completely frees the child. Hisui pulls out the dark-haired woman's cape from her cloak pocket. "I took it from you. But it's better to cover the baby now. If there is sand rain inside the collar, it is better not to show anyone his body, cured of poisoning. The young man wraps the boy in a cape and tells the girl that he will return her thing to her a little later. Ichiru doesn't mind. A thin cape is the least of her worries in this situation. Hisui carefully hands the baby over to the dark-haired woman. The guy says that the barrier will disappear soon. The girl remembers how the boy saved her when she wanted to touch the collar. The dark-haired one hugs the little one tighter. The young man waves his giant cloak and wraps one arm around the dark-haired woman's shoulder. He sees that the girl is scared and hurries to calm her. "I will take care of everything. Just hold me." The dark-haired one looks up at the young man. She understands that the boy is not deceiving and is really going to help her save the wolf child. "Well, I hope he can get us out of here," Ichiru says to himself. The sphere around the boy, girl, and child is gradually disappearing. The salesmen notice the young dragon. They understand that now it will be very difficult to catch the dark-haired man. The gentleman in red continues to whine. "You dare to stain my doll with your dirty paws?" The old pervert is disappointed that he will not be able to torment the defenseless child. One of the sellers claps his hands and orders his colleague to summon precious golems. A man in a bear suit presses a blue button on the wall. He asks the audience, who have finally stirred, not to worry. The bear assures people that everything is under control, and the small misunderstanding will now be resolved. A creak can be heard from the stage. Then something booms. A frightened Ichiru looks from behind Hisui. The girl sees a huge blue bear made of diamonds. It looks incredibly beautiful and at the same time creepy, unnatural. Soon another monster appears identical to the first. The bears head towards the dragon boy. The seller proudly says that there are no people the golems can't handle. Ichiru opens his eyes wide and screams. Hisui runs his hand over the dark-haired girl's shoulder, letting her know that everything will be fine, that he won't let her or the boy be hurt. The seller continues to praise the monsters. Despite their diamond hardness and cute appearance, these golems are very fast and dangerous. Each of them is capable of handling 4 platoons of 30-man knights each. He tells the audience that very soon the golems will return the doll to the owner, and the thieves will be punished. Hisui looks calm, which you can't say about the dark-haired one. It seems to the girl that the golems will simply crush them. A breeze is felt. Ichiru opens his eyes wide. She does not understand how the wind got into the closed room. Some kind of magic, nothing else. Hisui, without turning his face to the audience and the sellers, says, "You're wrong." He covers the girl's eyes with his hand and says that turning magical creatures into slaves is a sin, as is threatening innocent creatures with concentrated sand. The young man turns his head in the direction of the sellers and spectators. "And why did you sin like that? You will be doomed. All of you, I will eat you for your evil intentions." The young man stretches out a hand with claws and flashes his eyes. Hisui doesn't remove his hand from the dark-haired girl's face, because he doesn't want to scare the girl even more. The girl herself closes her eyes. She is very tired today. Hisui's words sounded unclear to her. She hears the howling of the wind best. Ichiru realizes that she is passing out. Meanwhile, the young man casts spells over the diamond golems. And it seems the spell is successful. One of the sellers freezes in place. He cannot believe that anyone is capable of stopping and destroying the diamond golems themselves. "Impossible!" he exclaims. The gentleman in red starts talking. He asks the young man not to approach. This scumbag does not want to be punished for his games with living creatures. He calls the young man a monster. Hisui begins to transform into a dragon. Dark-haired, who barely understands what is happening here, remembers something about monsters, or rather, about dragons. Sacred creatures as close as possible to the gods. Blood, heart, fangs, and scales. The entire body of a dragon contains a concentration of magical power. According to legends, the one to whom he gives his blood will become immortal. However, a person or creature who dares to approach the dragon with foolish intentions will face its wrath and pay with its life. The dark hair resembles Hisui's dragon eye. Corridor of some room. A young dragon is sitting on the floor. He is again in human form. The boy hugs the wolf child and Ichira. The girl comes to her senses. She opens her eyes wide. The dark-haired one looks around and asks Hisui where they are. The old man calmly answers, "Not far from where we were." Ichiru is afraid that someone will find them, but the young man hurries to reassure her. There is a transparent barrier around us, so no one will pay attention to us. All right? The guy says that he summoned Fuka and made him call the guards to clean up the diamond golem fragments in the hall. Many people, in particular, sellers, were tied up. One of the guards, a fair-haired young man in a blue uniform, is surprised how Fuku managed to smash 2 whole golems to pieces. The tired bunny laughs. The guard picks up the torture collar that Hisui managed to remove from the child and says, "We'll definitely investigate." The blonde asks Fuka where the rescued child is. Bunny has to lie to keep Ichiru and Hisui out of trouble. "Well, as soon as I lifted the restraints, the boy ran away." The curtain in the hall is down. Let's return to our saviors. The young man glances at the boy wrapped in a cloak. If he tells that someone cured his poisoning, there will be problems. Fortunately, people perceive children's stories as fantasy. The boy tells the dark-haired girl that the little one also saw her face. That's why Hisui is going to fix his memories. It will definitely not be worse. The girl is surprised. She does not really understand how the young man is going to work with memories. But the girl is not going to find out about it now. The dark-haired one tells the young man that this child doesn't seem to have any relatives. "Clear," he answers. The voices of a boy and a girl echo in the empty corridor. The old man smiles faintly and says that he will eat another part of the boy's memories if it causes a lot of trouble. Hisui did the same to the slave traders in the hall. The girl opens her eyes wide. Orphans appear on her skin from the young man's words about eating memories. Hisui calmly continues, "Those miserable people won't even remember your silhouette now." Dark hair says it's powerful magic. She's about to ask the boy if it's okay to use something like that, but pauses for a moment when she remembers how she used the spell herself. The girl apologizes to Hisui. The guy says in a serious tone, "Do you know what would happen if the slave traders of this city found out about you?" Without waiting for an answer, he tells the dark-haired woman that she would be captured and turned into a magical slave. And they would do it very easily because Ichiru is an orphan. "Slave traders would use you mercilessly until you were dead," adds the young man. The girl grimaces at these words. Hisui instructively says that if it weren't for him and Fuka, Ichiru and of course the wolf child would have remained in the clutches of the slavers. The dark-haired man lowers his head. She feels ashamed for not listening to Hisui's warnings, but the dark-haired woman could not do otherwise, and she tries to prove this to the young man. "The child suffered so much," says the girl. Hisui says that you can't save everyone who can't protect themselves. Ichiru remembers the young man saying something similar in dragon form. The guy continues, "This problem isn't just about you." The nature of the girl's magic is unclear, so it could be dangerous. The young man sparkles with emerald eyes. "I warned you, but you didn't listen." He is unhappy with the girl's behavior. The dark-haired woman's lips tremble. She looks like she's about to cry. The young man's stern tone scares her. The girl remembers Hisui again in dragon form. She remembers how she touched his black fur, how her hands trembled then. The girl apologizes for the inconvenience caused to the boy because of her. She admits that she acted recklessly. But then, the dark-haired man looks into the boy's eyes. "So my helping Hisui-san was also a mistake?" The young man falls silent, not knowing what to say here, because without the magic of the dark-haired woman, he really would not have survived. The girl says that when she cleaned part of Hisui the dragon's body, he said that he was relieved. After that, Ichiru wanted to do something else for him. "And the next day," she says, "he said that my magic is the medicine that all magical creatures crave, right?" Hisui's eyes widened. The girl clenches her hand into a fist and asks the boy, So that there would be no misfortune, it would be better if this magic did not exist at all?" The dark-haired woman is very upset. She does not understand why she should hide her gift when others need it so much. Yes, of course, you need to follow certain safety rules, but not helping anyone out of concern for your own skin is kind of an option. Ichiru says he wants to take a magic assessment. The young man is silent. He sees no point in proving something to the dark-haired man. She looks too stubborn. The girl firmly says that she will conduct a study of her magical abilities and then decide for herself what to do. The dark-haired woman stands up sharply and finally exclaims, "Of course I don't understand many things now, but I'm not going to back down. If I can help someone, I have to do it." Suddenly, the girl's legs, still weak from the recent use of magic, fail her. Dark hair begins to fall. It seems that another second and she will meet the cold stone floor. But no. Hisui picks up the dark-haired girl and gently pulls her forward. He looks at the girl for a few more seconds to make sure that everything is really okay with her. Ichiru freezes in place as if under a spell. The girl is embarrassed by the act of the young man. Hisui puts a hand to his forehead and sighs loudly. Just then, the young man realized what the girl was thinking about, and he himself became uncomfortable. The dark-haired woman opens her eyes wide as if asking the young man what happened. He quietly, with some strange sympathy in his voice, says, "You are still such a child." Hisui then lowers his hand and says that he has no parents, just like the dark-haired girl and the wolf cub. They are all orphans who learned the cruelty of this world too early. The girl remembers her conversation with Fuka. Bunny said that when Hisui starts running wild, he can never stop himself. That is why the young dragon behaves so discreetly. Fuka also told Ichiru in a conspiratorial tone that the boy cared for her very much, about his savior, the girl who desperately risked her own life for his sake. Then the dark-haired man was shocked by the bunny's words. Hisui lowers his head and says, "Researching magic is even more dangerous than using it secretly." The dark-haired one sighs. She thinks that now the young man will dissuade her from taking the assessment. But Hisui is not going to teach the girl. Still, she won't listen to him. The boy only asks the dark-haired woman, "Please live with me if you are not going to give up." The old man tells the girl that she can do research as much as she wants, but only under his supervision. Ichir is surprised by such an ultimatum. The young man lowers his head and continues seriously. "If you plan to produce something beyond my reach again, I will have to take action. I think you understand what that means." Yes, the dark-haired one also knows how to understand. If Hisui gets into a lot of trouble because of her, the young man will simply eat her memories, just like the memories of the slave traders and the rescued child. The girl freezes in place. She doesn't want Hisui to make her forget everything. The best way out of this situation is to agree to the guy's terms. The dark-haired one does so. Several days pass. Dark-haired is back in the forest. She heads to Hisui's house. Getting to this huge building is quite difficult. The girl has to make her way through the bushes and bushes. The grass rustles under her boots. The howling of the wind is heard. After a moment, not far from the dark-haired girl, Hisui himself appears. Today, the boy is dressed somewhat festively. A white shirt, trousers, fastened with a brown belt and a swamp-colored raincoat. The girl greets her boyfriend. He crosses his arms on his chest. She really came. Hisui seems a little surprised that this stubborn woman kept her word. Ichiru smirks at the corner of his mouth and confirms his decision to live in the Dragon Boy's house. "May my actions be controlled," she says, "but I will not give up healing magic." The girl thinks about her new life. It seems that she will not have to pay for rent, groceries, and other household items. During research, the dark-haired man will be able to learn more about magic from the young man's books. Would it be better to pay more attention to work in order to accumulate the amount needed for the magical assessment as quickly as possible? Ichiru asks herself, how much time will this take anyway? Hisui snaps the dark-haired man out of his thoughts. He asks the girl if she is afraid to go to the dragon's lair. Dark-haired freezes in place. Surprisingly, she didn't even think about it. On the one hand, it would be a lie to say that the girl is not afraid at all. She has seen Hisui in anger and knows how scary and dangerous he can be. But with those who do not harm the world, the young man is quite friendly. He helps magical creatures, takes care of them. It seems to the dark-haired girl that the young man wants to keep her close to him not only for the sake of supervision. He has other, more important motives. At least the girl hopes so. She smiles widely and sparkles with purple eyes. Everything is fine. The dark-haired one winks at the young man and says that he is a very soft and fluffy little dragon. "Oh," she says in her mind, "I've spoken." Ichiru blushes. Hisui asks, "Soft?" No one has ever given him such a compliment. Ichiru says that the dragon boy has a very nice and fluffy collar. The young man guesses that she is talking about fur. The girl squints sweetly. "Very soothing, soft and warm, touching it is a pleasure." Hisui smiles and tells Ichiru something about strange tastes. The young man's smile did not hide from the eyes of the dark-haired woman. She is surprised that the young man smiled. This almost never happened before. Was it? But Ichiru simply does not remember. In any case, she is glad that Hisui is being nice. The young man raises his hand to the girl's forehead and causes a white glow that momentarily blinds the dark-haired girl. She screams in surprise. Hisui explains what he just did. There's a barrier here. Now he will calmly let you in and out, so you will be able to move freely both in the forest and in the city. The man goes behind the barrier, which looks like a blue circle, and extends his hand to the girl. Let's go. Yes, he was serious about Ichiru and her powers. The girl is sure that the young man will definitely not offend her. He, as if to confirm the dark-haired woman's thoughts, sparkles with emerald eyes. Ichiru smiles at the boy. After a few seconds, she puts her hand in his. Also, says the dark-haired man in his mind, I agreed to move in with Hisui-san because I want to get to know him better. After a few minutes, the boy and girl find themselves near a huge white and green house. The young man asks Ichiru, You live here alone? He says that almost. He has no family, but there is an annoying rabbit thief. Ichiru laughs when he realizes that the young man is talking about Fuka. The girl and the boy go inside the house. Hisui treats the girl to a cup of tea. Dark-haired people like such hospitality. Suddenly, the girl remembers the wolf boy. Where did he go? She asks herself. Maybe, Ichiru suggests. Hisui sent him back to the forest. However, it is not so important now. The baby is safe, and that's the main thing. Hisui tells the girl that she can get some rest while he tells her about the rules of living in this house. Ichiru thanks for the help. For financial help, she quickly corrects herself. Hisui pushes a chair across from the dark-haired woman. Consider this as payment for my accidental rescue. The girl is a little annoyed that he talks so much about the coincidence of his rescue, but she doesn't express her displeasure to Hisui. Still, the dark-haired one is in his house. The young man touches the back of the chair and sits down. He pours tea into his cup and says, Let's start. Should I tell you something that will help you decide? The girl immediately agrees. Hisui looks down and asks if the girl knows about the victory of the Ala Empire in the invasion war. So, says the dark-haired man. She is somewhat surprised that the young man decided to start with this. The war ended 10 years ago, when the girl was 5 years old. The town of Prui was not involved in hostilities, so little Ichiru did not even realize that a war was going on somewhere nearby. The boy says that during the war he was under the command of the palace. The girl opens her eyes wide. She considered the dragon a recluse and could not even think that he cooperated with the palace. Sunlight streams in through large oak-framed windows. She asks the young man in which form he will participate in the war, human or dragon. Does not matter, answers the young man. The guy tells the girl to listen to him carefully. What he will tell is not fables or rumors, but the truth. Fine, the dark-haired man says confusedly. She didn't expect the conversation to be so serious. The young man says that during the war there was a court healer in the palace. He was a tall, solitary man with long, wavy blue hair. This healer had to join the Imperial Army as a military medic. The girl listens carefully to the young man. What he says seems very important to her. Unlike military doctors, Hisui continued, he healed the wounded with healing power. Usually he worked in a military hospital. His strength was highly valued. More precisely, too many people and creatures begged the man for healing because only he had this gift. But the unexpected happened. During another struggle, the healer exhausted his strength. Unfortunately, a talented and kind man died. The people and creatures surrounding him tried their best to prevent this tragedy from happening. But no one can know what can happen in war. The dark-haired one stares somewhere ahead. Hisui leads to the fact that the magic power is exhausted, and if you use it completely, you can die. But is this a story about what happened during the war? Says Ichiru. Now are peaceful times. The young man raises a cup of tea to his lips and says that it is true. But the fact of death from excessive use of magical power does not depend. Hisui asks the surprised girl to remember that healers have a high mortality rate. The dark-haired woman realizes that the life of a healer, as she imagined him to be, is different from reality. When the girl learned about her magical abilities, she thought only about friendship with magical creatures, but not about an early death. Hisui recalls an episode from his military life. Military hospital, a young man is standing in a blue officer's uniform. The boy's face is dirty. He says goodbye to his friend Mallow. He died due to sand poisoning. Hisui tried to save Mallow, but unfortunately was unable to do so. The young man was too weak. Hisui snaps out of his memories. He notices that the dark-haired woman is silent for some reason. "You don't like tea?" asks the young man. The girl says that everything is fine and hurries to take the cup in her hands. Actually, the dark-haired girl lied about the tea. It has no taste. But the dark-haired man doesn't want to upset Hisui. The boy takes a sip of the hot drink and tells Ichiru that she can come back to town whenever she wants. She just needs to be told about it. About an hour passes. The young man and the girl have already finished their small tea party. Hisui guides the dark-haired man to her room. The room is small, but neat and equipped with everything you need. The girl freezes in place with wide-open eyes. She can't believe that this wonderful room is now hers. For a child who grew up in a shelter, this is a real luxury. Hisui ignores the stormy reaction of the dark-haired woman. He tells the girl that she can use all the books in the house for research. "He asks me if something is unclear," adds the young man. He holds up his index finger and orders the girl not to use magic on anyone until she passes a magical assessment. Using untested magic can be dangerous, but inside the barrier, says Hisui, you can experiment. True. The girl will not have a wide space to practice because only Hisui and Fuka are in the house. But the little bunny will definitely not mind becoming the girl's test subject. The dark-haired one notices that Hisui isn't saying it's witchcraft, but your magic. The girl suggests that perhaps the young man has changed his attitude towards her abilities, that now he does not consider them a coincidence or a mistake. The dark-haired man remembers the boy's words about the high death rate among healers. For some reason, she connects it with her past life, or rather, its completion. Dark-haired suggests that she died young then, because she was supposed to become a healer in her new life. The girl shuddered at this thought. You need to properly understand the work of healers. Fuqua said that there are free healers. They are not tied to any hospital and can travel the world without hindrance, something like freelancers. Next time, the dark-haired one wants to ask the bunny about it. By the way, she says to the boy, what happened to the wolf boy? The girl's ringing voice can be heard even outside the house. Harsui crosses his arms over his chest and says that the child is wandering in the forest. It seems that the little one liked this quiet place, so he behaves calmly. If he continues in the same vein, the young man is going to let him stay here. It seems, says the boy, the little one never understood why sand poisoning didn't kill him. Therefore, there is no need to absorb his remaining memories. The dark-haired woman says that for some reason she was constantly worried about the child. She wants to see him to make sure he's okay and doesn't need help. The guy looks into the girl's eyes and says, I wouldn't advise you to meet. This boy is rude. I think you will be very upset when he insults you. A few months ago, the wolf boy sees a vision in which he is a little white dog sitting in a cage waiting for his owner. She returns home and takes her pet in her arms. He closes his eyes with pleasure. He was very bored without his girlfriend. The dog says his name is Mafu, and he lives with Ichiru, a dark-haired pretty worker at a large company. My mistress loves me very much, says Mafu, and I love her very much. It's sad to guard the house myself, but I get a lot of pats for it. The wolf comes to his senses. It was stirred by a small squirrel. The boy does not really understand what is happening and where he is. He looks around. Phew, I'm at home in the forest. But what kind of vision was that? Clouds are coming. The squirrel starts squealing, thus trying to attract the wolf's attention. He directs his gaze upwards. Sand rain begins. The boy and the squirrel are in a hurry to hide under a dry tree. It's warm here, and most importantly, it's more or less safe. Yes, the old oak will not protect their bodies from the poisonous fumes, but it can protect them from direct contact with the sand. This is quite enough for children. The wolf says that he is always lonely. It's true, the child has no parents, and among his friends is only a small squirrel. The little one lowers his head. And I keep seeing strange dreams. The squirrel has an idea. Tavarinka offers a friend to go to the city. He immediately revives. He knows that many people and various magical creatures live in the city. The boy naively assumes that it must not be as boring there as it is here. The little one thinks about the trip to the nearest town for a few more minutes. After all, he says, let's go and see how others live. The squirrel is happy that the boy agreed to her proposal. But these two children would not be so cheerful if they knew what would happen to them in a few weeks. The boy and the squirrel were caught by slave traders. They kept friends in the basement and tortured them. The squirrel could not stand it and later died of sand poisoning. The slave traders kept the little one for a grandiose business, the doll auction. Only the little one did not understand this. He hoped to the last that he would be released. But everything passed. The child is free again. True, the boy's mental state leaves much to be desired. The little one cries for a long time and sits on the grass, hugging his knees. As now, the forest is quiet. The rustling of the trees is heard, to which the wolf is already accustomed. Suddenly, a rustle is heard from somewhere. The boy shuddered and scratched his ear. After being captured by evil people, he behaves very cautiously. Hosui emerges from the thick of the forest. Ichiru catches up with him. The wolf is on guard. He is not happy to see people. Even safe, at first glance. Ichiru stops a few meters away from the boy and hesitantly says, "Hello, wolf." She is afraid of talking to the little one because she does not know how he will react to it. And her worst assumptions turn out to be reality. The boy grits his teeth and starts growling at the dark-haired girl. That girl. He is openly hostile towards the girl. The wolf fluffs its tail as if preparing for an attack, asks Ichiru how she ended up here. The little one thinks that the dark-haired woman is evil, that she is going to hurt him. That is why he reacts to her in this way. Any aggression is caused by fear. Hisui sees that the child is almost out of control and may now lash out at Ichira. The young man covers the dark-haired man with himself. "Even if you lay a finger on Ichiru, I will not forgive you. In this forest, nothing and no one threatens your life, so obey the rules of behavior, please." The girl remembers her recent conversation with Hisui in her new room. The boy told the girl about the little one. He doesn't remember that you saved him, but he remembers that you took part in the auction. Now he is driven by anger. Then the confused Ichiru still insisted on a meeting with the wolf. She reminds Hisui that the little one is here because of her. "I guess I can at least see him and make sure he's okay." But now the dark-haired woman is no longer so confident in her words. Maybe the girl really should have listened to Hisui and not looked for the little one in the forest. Her presence only annoys the boy. He growls at Ichira. "Smell." The little one thinks that the dark-haired one wants to kidnap him and hand him over to slave traders. He clenches his hands into fists. His body is tense, his eyes are narrowed, his ears are pressed to his head, his tail is loose. The boy's behavior and gestures betray his fear, but he is still too young to understand it. Ichiru mentally notes that the child is mispronouncing words, which in principle is not surprising. Creatures that grow in the wild often do not speak correctly or do not speak at all. Hisui tries to convince the boy that Ichiru is a good girl who loves magical creatures and does not harm them, but the boy does not believe it. He points a finger at the dark-haired one and says that she is no different from the ugly slave traders and lovers of dolls. The girl lowers her head. She understands that the little one is unintentionally talking about his savior like that, but it still hurts her. Vovchenya continues, not paying attention to the dark-haired woman's feelings. "This girl only pretends to be a do-gooder and benefactor. But it's not true. After all, she said then that she would buy me for 5 million. The dark-haired man remembers the moment the boy is talking about. Then she, in shock from the situation with the sale of a living child, abruptly got up from her soft chair, raised her hand with a black card and shouted, 5 million! It is unfortunate for Ichiru that of everything that happened in the hall, the boy remembers this particular episode. The girl is even a little angry with Hisui. Couldn't get it out of his mind. But the dark-haired man quickly pulls himself together. No, you shouldn't blame Hisui. It must be that memory is very difficult to work with, and he had no way of choosing what to delete and what to keep. In any case, it is not so important now. The girl decides to try to explain to the boy how everything really was. She calmly tells the little one, "I got into the auction by accident and I did not intend to participate in this dirty game. But when I saw that one of the perverts wanted to buy you, I just couldn't keep quiet. I tried to stop him, you know. I didn't even have that kind of money." The wolf is silent. It seems that the girl's words affected him in a certain way. The dark-haired woman adds with regret in her voice that she did not want to scare the boy. She knows that everyone in the hall looked the same to him. "And it's not your fault or mine," says the girl. "It's all because of damned slave traders who think they have the right to control other people's lives. But believe me, not all people are like that." The little one opens his eyes wide. Ichiru gives him very strange feelings. On the one hand, he is afraid of her because of the incident in the hall. Then she sat in a chair and, together with other aristocrats, watched the show put on by the slave traders. But on the other hand, the voice and behavior of the dark-haired one calms the wolves. And that's not the only reason he listens so carefully to Ichira. A vision related to the girl, or more precisely to her past life, appears before the child's eyes. In it, a dark-haired woman wearing a white blouse and blue skirt apologizes to Mafu for not being able to spend her one weekend with him. But the dog, in whose body there is a wolf boy, does not take offense at her. The vision disappears as suddenly as it appeared. The wolf boy again sees a 15-year-old girl with short hair in front of him. Tears appear in her eyes. The dark-haired woman feels guilty before the child, although she understands that she could not have done otherwise then, in the hall. After a few seconds of silence, the girl quietly asks the boy to forgive her. She asks him, "Are you really feeling well?" This is the question the girl once asked her boyfriend Mafa. Then the animal did not answer anything, and the dark-haired woman took it as an affirmative answer to the question. And in vain. The boy opens his eyes wide. He is also familiar with the girl's words. She spoke them to him in that strange vision. The child freezes in place. He does not understand what is happening here, and why this girl seems so familiar and even familiar to him. But the little one quickly drives away these feelings. He convinces himself that the dark-haired man is simply trying to deceive him, to gain his trust. Why does she need it? To take the boy and sell him in a hidden slave market? The child grits his teeth in anger. He stares at the dark-haired man. "Why did you open your mouth, abomination?" In this way, the boy tries not only to insult and frighten the dark-haired girl, but also to make her disgust him. The boy is sure that Ichiru will not want to steal from a wild brute who does not know basic rules of behavior. They usually don't want to buy or sell them.